Virtually everything we know about the illicit targeting of President Trump is as a result of Judicial Watch's work, either directly or indirectly. The big news first, obviously, is the breaking information first reported by the New York Times that the Justice Department, namely U.S. Attorney John Durham, who was appointed by Attorney General Barr to investigate the origins and the manipulation of our intelligence community in terms of the Spygate targeting of President Trump. The New York Times reported first that it is now a criminal investigation. Now, it confirms our suspicions that the initial investigation was not a criminal investigation, despite what everyone was saying. It was an initial inquiry. It was an administrative review. Obviously, they found something big to justify escalating it into a criminal investigation. Well, finally, it's long past due, and it is something the deep state is very angry about. It is the real reason, the fear of this type of development was the real reason for the impeachment coup against President Trump. Judicial Watch has been in the forefront of pushing the Justice Department publicly to do a serious criminal investigation. We think it should have been done immediately by the Trump administration, but of course, the deep state wouldn't allow that. Jeff Sessions made the horrible decision to recuse himself from the Russia investigation. And then Rod Rosenstein, in league with Andrew McCabe, the anti-Trumper, then wrongly and improperly appointed and corruptly appointed Special Counsel Mueller to harass the president for 2 years. So therefore, the whole Russia hoax canard was uninvestigated. In fact, it was pursued aggressively against President Trump through the corrupt Mueller investigation. So thankfully, the president fired Jeff Sessions, which in my view was the most significant personnel decision of his presidency thus far, and hired Attorney General Barr. And Attorney General Barr came in, saw what was up with Mueller, and I don't know this for a fact, but essentially he gave them the message that you need to finish this up. It's going nowhere, you need to finish it up. I think if President Trump hadn't fired Sessions, the Mueller investigation would probably still be going on, harassing and abusing President Trump and all sorts of other innocent Americans. So then Barr said, look, we're going to investigate this issue. He had concerns about the basis for the so-called counterintelligence investigation that morphed into this criminal investigation into President Trump's connections to Russia, which were zilch. And now the administration has found, or the Justice Department has found, enough information to generate a criminal inquiry, which means that you'll finally get a grand jury, potentially, that is serious about getting to the bottom of what went on with the illicit targeting of President Trump. Needless to say, the deep state is furious. Jerry Nadler and Adam Schiff have denounced it, suggested the Justice Department isn't independent. Well, it isn't independent. Not under our Constitution. The Justice Department reports to the President of the United States. It's the big lie that it's independent that led to the abuses of the Justice Department and the FBI to harass and target President Trump as if he reported to them as opposed to the other way around. It's that abuse of power by Justice Department officials who, quote, think they're independent that led to this terrible corruption scandal, the worst in modern American history for sure. So it's good news, however belated, that there's a criminal investigation into Spygate targeting. And what I suspect is generated this, and I've talked to you about this before, is the idea that the whole Russiagate thing was a fraud to begin with, in the sense that there was never a good faith basis by the Justice Department or the FBI or anyone else involved in any of this to believe that the Trump campaign was an agent of Russia and colluding with Russia. There was never a good faith basis. The dossier, when you look at the dossier paid for by the FBI, written with the help of the Kerry State Department, paid for by the Democratic National Committee, paid for by the Clinton campaign. It's obviously a fraud. It's kooky. When you read it, you say this is crazy town. But the FBI pretended it was serious enough to justify spying on the Trump team. And then you have details about this Joseph Misfud, who supposedly has connections to Russia intelligence, but is more likely a Western intelligence source. It's as strongly suggested. And then you've got all this spying going on the Trump campaign through Stephen Halper and other illegal targeting of the president or then candidate Trump and people around him. And I think what they're going to find is that all of this so-called intelligence that the Russians were colluding with Trump came out of the CIA and FBI, that there really was no independent corroboration of it. And I've called it the self-licking ice cream cone. Who are your sources? Me, myself, and I. That was the Justice Department, FBI approach to targeting Trump. And of course, you had this base motive for doing it, which is Strzok and Page admitting in the text messages they hated Trump. You have Andrew Weissman, the deputy guy under Mueller, who was also handling this investigation. We'll talk about him later. Notorious anti-Trumper, pro-Hillary Clinton. So there was all this motive to create and concoct this. And I think, based on all the various reports, is that Barr and Durham, in their initial review, figured out that the basis for the Russia intelligence investigation was a fraud, at least as it relates to targeting President Trump. Now, there may have been concerns that the Russians were spending $100,000 or so on fake Facebook accounts to mess with our elections and support Trump one day, support Hillary the other day, and then someone else on the third day. But that's not the issue. The issue was that the FBI and the Justice Department went beyond that and suggested there was some sort of collusion. And there was never, they didn't have any independent information. So when, for instance, the dossier references Russia intelligence sources, I suspect we're going to find in the end there were no Russia intelligence sources. And to the degree they were, quote, Russia intelligence sources, they were probably working for us too. And it was that fraud that I think is generating this criminal inquiry. We'll see. But the deep state's very nervous about it. The Democratic media complex is nervous about it. And so you can see also why the coup was instituted and the impeachment inquiry was instituted against President Trump, because they knew this was coming. I mean, Schiff knew what was happening. He knew what had been done. He was intimately involved with all of this. He may as well have had a seat on the board of directors of Fusion GPS or been a partner or whatever I don't know what the corporate structure is. But the point being that they all were in on it. So they knew what Barr, if left to his own devices, was going to find. So what do you do to inoculate yourself from a criminal investigation? Suggest it's in retaliation for impeachment. And what do you do to get an impeachment inquiry going? Despite knowing there's no basis for it, you concoct a fraudulent charge related to Ukraine. More of the same. So this whole impeachment inquiry is kabuki theater designed to protect those who really did, in my view, significant criminal acts to target President Trump and victimize him. And what are the crimes potentially? There are whole legions of crimes. You've got conspiracy, you have civil rights violations, you have fraud, all sorts of things. And the Justice Department can't act on this soon enough. They need to move quickly. They need to start being serious about this. And I appreciate the news that they've got the grand jury power. But you know, what are they going to do? Are they going to exercise it? Are they going to go after those who need investigation and bring them in and haul them in before grand juries? If you want these abuses to stop, you need to be willing to enforce the rule of law, even against the most powerful in our political system. who has to worry about this? Who should be worrying about this? Well, Barack Obama should be worrying about this. Vice President Biden should be worried about this. James Clapper should be worried about this. John Brennan, Lisa Page, Peter Strzok, James Comey, Andrew McCabe, Loretta Lynch, James Baker, former general counsel for the FBI, Bruce Orr, Nellie Orr, Glenn Simpson, Fusion GPS, Hillary Clinton, Bruce Orr, Nellie Orr, obviously Christopher Steele, who knows who else? John Kerry. The State Department was a center of anti-Trump activity on Russiagate. That needs to be investigated. CIA was spying on Trump, it's pretty clear, based on all the publicly available information. The outrage is, why is it taking so long? Now, do I think anything's going to happen? I don't know. I'm hopeful. As you know, I've been suspicious. You had this Comey IG report that came out delineating, well, actually they had referred Comey for criminal investigations. And Justice Department dropped the ball there. Will they drop the ball here? I don't know. The FISA-Gate report may have played a role in escalating this to a criminal inquiry. We'll see. We can be hopeful, but Judicial Watch never takes it for granted that the right thing will be done. I mean, otherwise we would have shut down years ago. Oh, the Justice Department's investigating this. Oh, don't worry, they were investigating Clinton emails. Oh, don't worry, Congress is investigating Benghazi. Oh, don't worry, Congress is investigating the IRS. Oh, don't worry, Congress is investigating Fast and Furious. Oh, don't worry, we have a new Justice Department. They'll take care of the Hillary Clinton issue, finally. They'll investigate Spygate. Well, it's 3 years later, none of that's been done substantially. So obviously better late than never, but Judicial Watch is not going to stop. And we've got nearly 60 lawsuits at this point targeting the deep state conspiracy against President Trump and you, the American people, and our Constitution. And virtually everything we know about the illicit targeting of President Trump is as a result of Judicial Watch's work, either directly or indirectly. And you can bet this Justice Department investigation would never have happened but for the incessant pressure of Judicial Watch, other independent operators and investigators like Sarah Carter and John Solomon, pressure from intrepid members of Congress like Devin Nunes, Meadows, Jordan, Gates, people like that, Chuck Grassley. None of this would be proceeding as it ought to without the pressure of Judicial Watch. And what I mean by pressure, I mean you. Because we only are able to get the word out because of your support. And obviously, you help us get the word out by looking at our information, sharing it, spreading it, demanding action from your members of Congress. And we get the results. I always talk about Judicial Watch does the heavy lifting. It's this heavy lifting that gets these results that result in criminal investigations. There's more than enough information that Judicial Watch has uncovered on Spygate, the collusion, the payments, the corruption. They didn't even need a grand jury. They could have taken all our FOIA documents and started issuing indictments based on that. I exaggerate only slightly. But it's there. So we can take credit for at least this positive development. Now, I hope it results in serious prosecutions. We'll see. But you were never going to get a prosecution if you didn't have a criminal inquiry. And as I've been warning you, there hadn't been a criminal inquiry until, as we just learned, at least today. So we'll see what happens. It's good news. The Judicial Watch takes a good deal of credit in forcing the Justice Department to do the right thing here, or at least the appearance of the right thing. Well, you know, we have to maintain our healthy skepticism here. But we'll see what happens. And so, as I said, in the meantime, Judicial Watch will continue to uncover the truth. And, you know, we're having success in terms of even getting Congress to even begin contemplating doing the right thing. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and like our video down below.